Welcome to People's Daily Studio, where prominent voices from China and around the world share their insights. I'm Xiaomeng in Beijing. Joining me in this episode of PD Studio is Mr. Nicholas Rosellini, UN Resident Coordinator in China. Hi, Mr. Rosellini. Would you like to say hi to the audience of the People's Daily app?
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on your show, and warm greetings to all the viewers of the PD Studio app.
Okay, actually, this year, 2019, is a little bit special as it marks the 40th anniversary of the United Nations in China. And you have worked in the UN for like 33 years, right? Yes. So based on your own working experiences, can you tell us that what kind of roles or is there any kind of changes in terms of the role of China in the United Nations?
What we've seen in more recent years is growing visibility and prominence in terms of some of the work that the United Nations does. Now, as the second largest economy in the world, it is also, from 2019, the second largest contributor to the United Nations in terms of assessed contributions. It's also playing a very important role in terms of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It's been a champion of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's come forward in terms of the Paris Agreement on climate change. And China is also a very important contributor in terms of peacekeeping.
Past 3 years actually witnessed tremendous developments. So can you name one or two things that are most impressive to you in terms of China's socioeconomic development?
Probably the most impressive trend in China has been the reduction in poverty. 800 million people lifted out of poverty during this time frame. This progress, this human progress, and I think it's really extraordinarily impressive in terms of an achievement. Looking in more recent times, what I find very interesting is the investment in science and technology and the achievements in terms of innovation and really thinking ahead long term about how to restructure the economy to take advantage of new technologies, but also to make sure that the risks of new technologies are also reduced. So I think if one looks ahead in terms of how economies will look around the world in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, China is really already anticipating the kind of trends that will happen and how to restructure the workforce to take advantage of that so people can benefit from economic trends and not feel threatened by them.
So do you have any kind of impressive or memorable stories about China's poverty relief efforts that you think are also in line with the UN's sustainable goal?
One is the ability to pilot and to do demonstration work and to test it in a fairly flexible way. And then I think the second important thing is the ability in China to scale up. There is a proven method by which things that work in one region, one province, one area of the country, if they work well, can be scaled up nationally. The third is adaptability, changing over time. The challenges in rural poverty or other issues of urbanization are quite different now than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And China has been quite good at being able to adapt strategies to the changing environment. I have been to some of the poor counties. I visited Qinghai, which has a higher poverty rate than the national average. The kind of last mile in poverty elimination is very difficult because you have to craft your policies to deal with groups which maybe have been a little bit left behind in the past and make sure that the benefits of development reach these people.
And China has always been an advocate of South-South cooperation, with China's developments drawing worldwide attention. what kind of expertise and experience about China's developmental path and model do you think is worthy of sharing and learning to other developing countries?
I think some of the important areas are in terms of poverty reduction, looking at energy. Many developing countries are energy deficient. And I think now China, as a major producer both of the equipment as well as user of renewable energies, can do a lot with other countries in terms of renewable energy, wind power, solar power, and supporting countries in terms of coming up with renewable energy strategies.
So from your perspective, do you see any impacts of the Belt and Road Initiative in promoting development on a global basis?
I think having a source of investment such as the Belt and Road, which is working in many developing countries, low-income countries, countries that haven't attracted investment in many cases, I think means that there is that opportunity to link and align the Belt and Road with the Sustainable Development Goals, and therefore for countries to optimize the investments, not just in economic terms, but in development terms and human development terms.
And many viewers of the People's Daily app actually aspire to work for the UN. So can you tell us about what it's like to work for the UN?
I've been on something like 10 assignments in 8 different countries, and it's always been interesting. It's really been a fascinating and unique experience to gain, in some ways, a better understanding of the world. It has its difficulties as well. You're far from your family. You need to be flexible about where you work in the world. But if you have the right attitude and you're flexible, it's a very stimulating and enriching career.
For the coming years in China, do you have any kinds of goals about the future work of the UN in China?
I think if we look ahead, there's the challenge of unbalanced development and how to ensure that there's access to high quality services for all, that no one gets left behind, and so on. Another is on the environment, and the government's already taken rapid steps to improve the environment. But I think in the future there'll be even more investments in terms of restructuring the economy towards a low carbon economy. And then thirdly, I think we'll continue to increase our collaboration with China worldwide in terms of South-South cooperation and international development cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Rosellini, for coming to our studio. I think that thanks to the UN, we can have peace and love every day. So that's all for today's PD Studio. Join us next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for the interview. Thank you. I enjoy using the People's Daily app. Peace and love to the People's Daily app.